Last year, Xi Jinping got a third, and this is an unprecedented third term at the helm of
That's right.
China.
Hmm.
The sole need for this has been that Xi Jinping has been telling his coterie that I am here and I can deliver on Taiwan.
Welcome to the Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Ramananda Sengupta. Our very special guest today is Kalpit A Mankikar, a fellow at the Observer Research Foundation who specializes in China, particularly its internal dynamics and politics. And today we're going to be talking about China, not just in terms of, of the current situation in the South China Sea and the Indo-Pacific, but also relationship vis-a-vis Taiwan, vis-a-vis the US, and of course Philippines, which has been hotting up. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's take it right from the top. You had recently been to Taiwan for as an observer for the elections. Could you just give us a slight idea of what the mood was when you went there? I mean, did you see why I'm asking is, did you really see a lot of movement in terms of a pro-China policy there while you were there? Even though the election said there wasn't, but
Yeah, thank you, Ramanan. It's really nice being on Strat News. Now, I went to Taiwan recently on the invitation of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Taiwan, and this was
Mhm.
bang in the middle of the electioneering process. So I attended a couple of rallies there. I was able to talk to the ordinary people the ordinary voter in Taiwan. Now, there are 2 points I'd like to make. So one is the Taiwanese, the Taiwanese citizen, the Taiwanese voter was very much, absorbed with a lot of, bread and butter issues. When I talk about bread and butter, it is a lot about, jobs, well-paying jobs, um, also the issues regarding housing. So that is there. So while that is there, there is a lot of anxiety related to China too, because let's remember, Taiwanese society today looks itself, there is a rise of the Taiwanese identity, there is a rise of a Taiwanese nationalism. So these two strands of political discourse are something which I found there in Taiwan.
You found two strands of political discourse, but given that um, the election results weren't too very sort of happy as far as she is concerned, what do you think? China must have anticipated this win anyway. I doubt that they were very surprised. But what do you think the next steps are there in Xi's playbook for this? What do you think? Is it the stuff that's going on now in terms of uh, putting pressure symbolically? Is that bluster or is that actually a threat?
See, I think, Ramanan, let's try to understand one thing. Xi Jinping is one of the most strongest leader, at the helm of China in many, many years. Since,
Right.
the comparison has been to Mao Zedong. And this is, this is an unprecedented political situation in China, because, there was a, a kind of a political covenant that a leader would get 10 years in power and then he would fade away into the limelight. Now, last year, Xi Jinping got a third, and this is an unprecedented third term at the helm of
That's right.
China.
Hmm.
The sole need for this has been that Xi Jinping has been telling his coterie that I am here and I can deliver on Taiwan. So
Okay.
he talks. There's a heightened call to national rejuvenation, that the Chinese rejuvenation will take off with acquiring or the unification of Taiwan. So that
Okay.
is there. Yes.
So if that is there, then what happens. I mean, that means that whether anybody likes it, doesn't like it, eventually she will have to deliver on that.
So I think he will. See, look at it this way. Since the time Xi Jinping has taken over, you know what? Look at the trends that are taking place in China. One is Xi Jinping embarks on one of the most ambitious modernization programs of the People's Liberation Army, which is, in the Chinese construct, it is not a national army, but it is the party's army. Now he, with every time, you know, as the modernization has gathered pace, we find China becoming more and more aggressive. Look at what has happened in the last one and a half year, 2 years. Xi Jinping has been touring every military base in China, and his instructions to his generals are that we need to prepare for war. We need to improve our training capabilities. We need to improve the capabilities of our soldiers. So there is definitely a movement towards making China more aggressive and more militaristic. Now,
Hmm.
where is this going to sort of culminate in? And the signs are very clear. Despite what Xi Jinping says, that there are no designs. um, Look at what has happened in the South China Sea. South
Right.
China Sea was slowly, I mean, China embarked on a militarized, sorry, he embarked on a reclamation program in the South China Sea, making South China Sea China's lake. And Xi Jinping
Absolutely.
had a promise that he will not militarize the islands, and he has broken those promises. So,
Right.
we cannot take what Xi Jinping says at face value today. There are a lot of people who say that currently China faces a lot of economic headwinds, and Xi Jinping's priorities will be diverted to that. But see, the people's the Chinese Communist Party is not a rational actor. There have
Hmm.
been different impulses of the Chinese Communist Party at different points of time, and given his headwinds, given kind of um, the kind of challenges that Xi Jinping might even face within the Chinese political system, might make him more belligerent, and might he might sort of there might be a step to there might be some adventurism on Taiwan
Right.
in the recent in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
I see. But you spoke about the Taiwanese people saying that it's, I mean, mostly feeling that it's more of a bread and butter issue right now rather than China. Is there a similar sentiment in China amongst the people? I mean, are they saying that, Taiwan can come later, let's first get our own act together? Or is there really a nationalistic feel that we must get Taiwan before we start anything?
See, it's very difficult to ascertain what is happening inside China, because obviously it's a closed
It's still
system.
closed. It's still a very closed society for outsiders.
Yes, it's a very close society, and also I think, Ramanand, we have to understand one thing. It is a communist party that sets the tone. It's the communist party that sets the discourse. It's the communist party that leads the way. In China, it's not like a democracy where a political discourse or a discourse over foreign policy results in a
Right.
certain auspices at the top.
So would that mean that Xi, even if he felt that it wasn't high on the priority of, the people, he would still go ahead and do it himself? That's what you're trying to say. It's possible that he might just do that. And he
See,
could.
she will do it because he needs to show something before his fourth term. He's also looking at a long term sort of see, all the programs and policies in China are now coming with a 25, 30, 35 year kind of a timeline. So,
Right.
which means Xi Jinping plans to stay beyond when his current tenure
Yeah, yeah.
expires.
He's emperor for
So,
life now.
so he's looking at a long-term stint, and to justify that continuance in power, he has to deliver on Taiwan.
Hmm. So if he, I mean, so it's a question now of when, not if.
Yeah, it's a question. See, look at the look at the recent purges that are happening within the communist system, and look
Hmm.
at the whole resonance of Xi Jinping's anti-corruption rhetoric, where he's saying
Right.
that we need to have things in shape. Corruption cannot dent cannot be allowed to dent the People's Liberation Army. Now, obviously,
Hmm.
he's trying to bring this. Corruption has been a big factor in the People's Liberation Army's inside the People's Liberation Army. Now,
Right.
the whole idea is to make the sort of to instill a certain discipline there, so that it becomes an army that is fit to fight a war. See, he's Xi Jinping has had a long stint in office, and he has also very carefully studied the pitfalls, and he's very carefully studied what happened to the Red Army in the Ukraine campaign. So he has a
Hmm.
playbook, he has a template before him. Let's remember, the Red Army was, I mean, the People's Liberation Army was modeled on the Soviet army. So he knows that he knows that he has to sort of uh, address certain issues before he launches a kind of a warfare.
Hmm. So, the thing here is that the only thing that is really stopping them from just walking into Taiwan whenever they feel like is, I guess, the fear that the US might do something. But beyond that, there's really nobody else who can, I mean, stop them from doing that, right? Or do you think there are other factors at play?
See, I think there is a feeling within China that do you want to take on the US at this juncture?
Right.
So, China has been talking about a unification. Let's see, just examine the statements that came out from China just after Lai Ching-te won. They talk about making bridges or building bridges with people,
Right.
all the other strands of opinion on the island. Now, what does that mean?
Hmm.
That has a certain significance. Wang Huning, who is the Communist Party's top theorist, and he is Xi Jinping's advisor.
Right.
Wang Huning, uh, uh, you know, he talks about, and this is something in public domain. He talks about how the Taiwanese compatriots who kind of stall, who kind of help China have a lot to gain. So there is also China working on different fronts, is to maybe build bridges with anti DPP forces on the island. So there is that ramification also. So
Right.
see, China may not want to take cudgels or fight the US in a direct war, but over a period of time, there may be forces within China that will impel Xi Jinping to move on Taiwan.
Hmm. Let's talk about the US. There is, I on my way while coming in for this chat with you, I was watching Kishore Mahbubani of Singapore talking about how he feels that the US right now is obviously getting into election mode, and they're. I think Biden believes that he's already acted tough on China. He probably doesn't need to do much more. Would that be a correct assessment?
See, I think let's look at it this way. The US is going into an electioneering mode now. You know, historically, in the run up to the elections, the sentiments regarding China and Taiwan will be very high.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there is, I mean, we will also have to see, whether Biden wins us a second, another term.
Right.
So there are these ramifications, and also if you, um, I mean, a perusal of Chinese literature itself, you know, Chinese strategists are talking about a scenario where you know a win for Donald Trump in the White House and Lai Ching-te in Taiwan will present a formidable kind of a challenge to Xi Jinping. So I think
Mm-hmm.
we will have to see how that plays out. We will also have to see, how, because right now Taiwan is in a kind of a transition. So we will also have to see the presidential transition, um, and what are the kind of steps that Lai Chinta will take. And he will also, I mean, his inauguration will happen in some time, and he will have to talk about what how he sees the steps ahead. Now, Beijing will
Hmm.
again react to all these situations. So, right now, the as the situation is, it's very fluid.
Uh-huh. Let's talk closer to the region. Let's talk about the Philippines right now. Thing. That there's been a lot of skirmishes on water and other places, and recently, I believe they congratulated the Taiwan party for the win. Uh, if the Philippines can do that, where is that sort of confidence coming from? Because most of the other sort of ASEAN nations and others, they're really not well getting together on the same page as far as China is concerned. But Philippines seems to be standing right up there and sort of telling China where to get off. Where is that confidence coming from?
See, I think. First of all, of course, Philippines is an ally of the U.S. So there is the U.S.
Mhm.
backing. The
Right.
other thing is that within see China has sought to needle the Philippines. On the second Thomas Shoal, there has been an intimidation of Filipino vessels. So I
Right.
think somewhere, there have to be forces which have to stand up and be counted. So I think
Hmm.
it's coming from that instinct that they have to stand up and be counted, and show their opposition or their anger, at least their anger towards Chinese belligerence in the South China Sea.
Right. So, do you think there's a possibility that others might get inspired by the Philippines and sort of gang together with the Philippines, or individually to sort of say that okay, let's gang together and take on China?
Uh, See, at the moment, Ramanand, China has invested a lot in many of these countries, and there at the moment there doesn't seem to be a mass, an upsurge in this kind of a thing that let's gang up against China.
Hmm.
But you know, as Chinese belligerence rises, you might see that happening to some extent in Asia. I mean, of course, the Quad was a kind of a response to deter China, but you will see
Hmm.
that perhaps happen.
Right. I guess some of that, thing still stems from insecurity over whether or not the US will actually step in case there's a, full-on war. I mean, there's still some hesitation on that part, I guess. So people are just hedging their bets. You know, that brings us back to India in some ways. That given that China is already facing uh, issues in the Indo-Pacific region, does that mean less of worry for us or more of worry for India? Or
See,
is it just the same? Should they not be looked at together? Because for China it would become a two-front thing, but for us it would still be an issue in the sense that should we be looking at cooling off till they sort out that issue, or should we still be on high alert to prevent any misadventure, as they call it?
the conventional thinking is that China is, there are headwinds within China, and Xi Jinping is preoccupied with the economy. But
Right.
let's remember China's behavior is not something which is predictable. China has been an unpredictable actor in history, and there is not much of a difference. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
what had happened during the Great Leap Forward? China and Mao Zedong faced a lot of reverses during the Great Leap Forward, and there is now some amount of reasoning to believe that that had actually forced China to take a certain position in the which culminated in the 1962 war. So I
Mm-hmm.
think cannot let our guard down in any situation.
Right. So, why I brought this up was that, not doing what is expected or not being unexpected is part of Chinese sort of philosophy since ages. I mean, always doing something which is not immediately expected from people. So one should expect that in some ways, I suppose, from the Chinese, that they will do something unexpected. But what I meant was that, okay, let me ask it, put it in a different way, that, does
Even in
China
the
have the
economic,
wherewithal to sort of, take on two fronts like this? That's the other interesting aspect to it. That if at a time like this, if they have to worry about the southern border as well as the, Indo-Pacific, are they prepared for that?
see, Ramanand, one cannot, one cannot sort of bet on China. Uh, but look at it this way: look at the infrastructure that China is building along the Indian border. It
Mm-hmm.
is enabling. A long deployment of its soldiers on the border. It's
Right.
creating railway links. It is creating infrastructure links. Now, all these point to the thing that China wants to remain entrenched there, and that China has certain designs. I mean, they have spelled it in no less terms. So I think, why are we trying to think what China may do? We have to keep our powder dry for any eventuality that may come up. Look at after Galwan, there have been several attempts by China to change the status quo. Now that has been borne out by the
That's
gallantry
right.
awards that the government has announced. So I think
Mm-hmm.
there has we cannot let our guard down against China.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, I'm not saying that we should become complacent, but what I was trying to understand is, whether or not this would be the right time for China to have a two-front kind of a thing. But yeah, I suppose if necessary, they would do that. I know that we are running out of time, and that you have another meeting coming up. So let me conclude with the last question, that, if you looked at it in a slightly longer term, you've had Trump coming and saying that, yeah, I don't care about Taiwan. His that Rama, what was his name? The other guy who was his sidekick at
Vivek
one time.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah, he also had similar things to say. He said, "I'll just take away the chip making capacity from Taiwan, and after that, it's all Chinese. It doesn't matter to me." Is that something that goes down well in Taiwan?
See, Taiwan has a lot of resilience in terms of
Mm-hmm.
its society, in terms of uh, I had a classmate when I was studying at the London School of Economics, and
Mm-hmm.
he was serving then in the Taiwanese army. And I think
Okay.
one thing that he told me, and that is also something that uh, s- that is a recurrent strand in the opinion of a lot many people in Taiwan, is that you know we will be there, we will be fighting till the last man standing, because we cannot afford to let go of our freedom, of our civil liberties, if China annexes Taiwan. They've
Right.
seen that happen. I mean, for a long time, China had a certain governance structure with respect to Hong Kong, the one country two systems, and that was seen as something that would entice Taiwan to sort of come back to the fold. Now
Mm-hmm.
they have seen how that the one country two systems has how it has degenerated, how it has the trajectory of that one country two systems. And
Right.
there is a recurrent feeling that they will fight, they will make it uh, tough for China.
Mm-hmm. That
At least
that's
that's
good
the
to know.
sentiment.
Right.
At least that is the sentiment among the youth.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
I suppose, once a country becomes independent, it's very, very difficult for you to suddenly say that, either you should accede to some other place and things like that. But quick other thing that I really wanted to know from you, medium to long term, what do you see happening in the region? I mean, is it going to be just, continuous tension for some time? Do you see a period of peace in between for whatever reason? What exactly are you looking at in particularly in the Indo-Pacific? Let's forget Indochina for now, but in the Indo-Pacific, do you see tensions ratcheting up before the U.S. elections? Do you see, uh, you know, a sort of a ho hum kind of a thing happening till then, and then depending on who comes in power, the next thing happens? Where exactly do you think see things moving?
So I think so. There are many variables here. So
Of
one
course.
is China's economy. There
Hmm.
is a lot of rhetoric within China that it needs to get its act together. Now,
Right.
if there are more reverses on the economy, because the economy is something that guarantees the Communist Party's existence and power. Now, if that is
Absolutely.
threatened, what happens? What happens within China? How does China calibrate? So that is one thing that will decide the trajectory of the Indo-Pacific. The second thing is China, Taiwan has been sort of building links with other countries. uh, how does now there is a certain kind of China has been telling Taiwan that that constitutes as external interference, and this is, and it sees the DPP as something which is pushing for independence. Now, how do those dynamics operate? How does the how does the Lai presidency, the Lai Chinta presidency go ahead? What is the agenda? So I think there are these several variables here. Also within the Communist Party, what are the kind of challenges that Xi Jinping faces? Now, all these variables will really shape the future in the medium term to long term of the Indo-Pacific.
Hmm. I understand that. There is also, I suppose, the possibility of a minor accident or a mishap in that region, quickly spiraling out of control and becoming something much larger than it should have been. And with the South China Sea getting as congested as it is,
Yes.
well, let's hope nothing happens that bad. But overall, you're saying that till this thing is sorted, we are going to see tensions, going up and down, or ratcheting around with the people there. Beyond that, again, I'll
See,
come back to this, Mehbubani. He said that they're like two sumo wrestlers, China and the US, and they're both trying to push each other out of the ring. And now they're sort of tired and, just getting some rest before they start all over again. Is that an analogy you would agree with?
See, I don't agree with that because see, China has been at it since ahead of the elections. There was a lot of military coercion. We saw ships we saw Chinese vessels moving very close to the island. We saw the People's Liberation Army aircraft entering Taiwanese airspace. So
Right.
this is relentless. Now, the other thing that we've seen is prior to the elections, there was a lot of China was trying to hound a lot of businessmen who have business interests across the straits. uh, One presidential contender, one presidential aspirant was sort of slapped with tax probes and investigations to ensure
Right.
that he stepped back. So it is. So I don't think there is any pause as such. I mean, it might look very that like there is a pause right now, but these things continue, and it is not just on one front. So you will see this on several fronts. So prior to the elections, there were a lot of smear campaigns against Lai Chinta. In fact, DPP, there were morphed videos of DPP politicians doing the rounds. There was a kind of a fear mongering that they will declare this. The DPP will move faster towards independence. This was the kind
That's
of
right.
disinformation that China spread about Taiwan. So I don't think we can. I don't think that there is any pause here.
I
So it's
see.
it's a strand of a relentless campaign, because let's
Hmm.
face it, for China, for Xi Jinping, this is this is a do or die issue. 2018, Xi Jinping had told a Taiwanese delegation which was visiting Beijing that this is not something which will be allowed to linger beyond the future generations, which means that uh, he I mean, he believes that this will be sorted out in his leadership tenure, wherein that will
Absolutely.
facilitate his entry into the history book. So there is, I don't think that there is any letting up in the tensions.
Hmm. Well, I guess that, we'll have to learn to live with that in some way or the other. And if there's tension there, there's tension on us as well in some ways. Like the entire world seems to be going a bit, stressed at the moment, but I guess things will get better. With that, I think let's conclude for this particular session, though I would like to, I have a lot of other questions which I want to ask you, but we're running out of time. And I look forward to having you again with us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us. I appreciate
Thank you,
that a
Raman.
lot.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was Kalpit A. Mankikar, a fellow at the Observer Research Foundation who specializes in China, talking to us about the latest situation there and whether or not we should look forward to a peaceful region in that area or whether or not there's more storms brewing. Unfortunately, it seems like the latter. I do hope you enjoyed this particular episode of The Gist. If you liked it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Till we meet again, this is Ramananda Sengupta signing out.